It's Monday, May 4th, Star Wars Day, apparently, even though I'm not a nerd. Well, I'm kind of a sports nerd, but I'm definitely not a pop culture nerd. But the Force is with the Knee Jerks podcast. How's that for a segue? This is the Knee Jerks podcast of Eno, Nick, and Big Al. I am the Big Al of the equation, Al Beaton, longtime Detroit-based podcaster. And we're here to talk about Detroit sports. This will be another Detroit Pistons-centric podcast. So we have who you would expect if we're talking Pistons. But before we get to all that, let's get the introductions out of the way. First off, we have our West Coast correspondent, the resident scientist, as we like to call him here, and that would be Nick Milanovich. How's things on the West Coast, Nick?
Oh, not too bad. Yeah, I'm skipping out. I'm being at the beach right now because I'm hanging out with you guys.
Is he trying to make us feel guilty, Nick? I mean, Greg? I could be at the beach right now, but I got to hang out with you clowns.
You're lucky.
How was the beach, though? That was a beautiful picture we saw yesterday. How was the beach?
It was perfect. Like, where I live, there's, no air conditioning, so on a warm day, it gets warm.
Yeah.
And going down to the beach is, if nothing else, just relief from that because you get the breeze. And it was a lazy Sunday afternoon. So now it's going to be a lazy Monday evening after this podcast.
Yes. And, of course, my longtime partner. Actually, we're almost to year 18, Greg, with it being May. And that would be Greg Eno of the Greg Eno Substack, Out of Bounds. He wrote about Cade Cunningham and the Pistons today, who we will be talking about quite a bit shortly. Greg, how are things?
I'm well, and you're right, Al. It's coming up on 17 years. You're right. We'll be
17, 18? I can't even keep track of it anymore.
We started 17 years ago. So this is, I think, the end of year 17, if my math is correct. And then we'll start year 18, to your point. I guess in June, we'll start year 18. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I can't believe that. But we finally have seen, the first time since this podcast has been in existence, we finally have seen the Pistons win a playoff, which we had not done because the podcast debuted in 2009. Pistons last won a series in 2008. So this is a first for the Knee Jerks. I am Greg Eno from the aforementioned gregeno.substack.com. Please subscribe. I'll be in your inbox every Monday. And as Al mentioned, today's piece was about comparison between Cade Cunningham, how he lifted the Pistons with some help from Tobias Harris, of course, over the Magic, and how that shakes out with some of the things that Isaiah Lord Thomas has done in the past. Not to put Cade, of course, yet in that pantheon, because that's not fair to him, but that's the first time we've seen a Pistons player really kind of do what Cade did. The numbers, we'll get into this later, were just eye-popping. When I looked him up for what he did in games 5 through 7, shooting-wise, was unbelievable. And talk about kicking it up into another gear. So thanks for subscribing. If you would, please. It is free, and I'll be happy to have you on board. As promised, we said that we would have Siddy Hall back with us as long as the Pistons were in the playoffs. We also said that if for some reason they were eliminated at the end of round 1, that on May 4th we would have Siddy on to do a post-mortem autopsy on the Pistons. Thank goodness we don't have to do that. So he's here with us as we head into round 2, and we'll be with us again in a couple of weeks when we'll be talking about a post-mortem. We'll be headed probably close to round 3 at that point. But Siddy's here. Thanks for being here, my friend, and arranging your schedule to do so. We appreciate that.
Well, thanks for having me back. Hang the banner, right, for the Pistons. But anyway, good to be here. I just, hopped over here from another podcast called Pre-2000 Bathroom Graffiti Before the Dark Web, or as I say, back in the good old days when we just sat there without our cell phones, and I don't know, what utensils did people take with them into the bathroom to lay their poetry on the walls?
I don't know. I do not know.
You didn't partake.
No, no, not at all.
All right. Anyway, we are here. I don't want to, make us think about these horrible thoughts, but anyway, just as I'm looking as you're speaking, I'm just thinking about when the wheels appeared to come off the wagon, and it was Game 6, first half.
Yep.
When Jalen Suggs Desmond Bain and Wendell Carter Jr. hit back-to-back-to-back threes
Right.
in a span of, it looks like 52 seconds. And the Pistons went down 17 at that point. That was mid-second quarter, game 6. And it wasn't long after that. Do you remember? I think it was Duncan Robinson was standing out of bounds trying to inbound the ball, and he threw it all the way across the court.
Yes, he did.
And
Yes,
it was
he
at
did.
that point, it was, face palm time, and
Yep.
all you could do was laugh.
Right.
It looked like it was over, right?
Yeah, it was a comedy of errors, and they were down 22 going into half, and then I think Bain hit a layup to start the second half, so they were down 24 at that point, 62-38, and the wheels, top of the wheels coming off, completely came off for the Magic. They only scored 19 points in the entire second half, which is unbelievable. Made one field goal in the fourth quarter. And you mentioned Suggs. We'll get into that in a second. When the series started, we talked about this last time you were here, because when you were here 2 weeks ago, they had just played only game 1. And we thought Suggs, the way he played the first 6 minutes of the first quarter of game 1, I said, oh no, he's going to be a problem this entire series. But he was a nightmare for the Magic. This was obviously historical proportions. Game 6, especially, I'm talking about the collapse of the Magic, which will live in infamy. I've been trolling not really trolling. I'm not trolling them, but lurking in the Magic Reddit since then. And they are, as you would imagine, just crestfallen, heartbroken, and all sorts of emotions about that. Fans say that Game 6 broke them. They'll never be a fan
You're
again.
using adjectives of sadness. I thought you were going to use adjectives of anger.
Well, that too. Oh, there was that. There's a whole bunch of the whole pantheon of emotions going through that fan base right now, which I understand that. There's no question about it. But the last, 72 minutes of that series was, I think the Pistons outscored the Magic by like 56 or 58 points. And, we were talking about how this was a bad match. You didn't like the matchup at the top of the series. You said you were concerned, and you were right. I mean, the series went to 7. But as I watched the series unfold, Siddy, I don't like the way the Magic are constructed. And I don't like the way that they run their offense. I don't think they run much of an offense, quite frankly.
Well, one of the problems in the modern three-point NBA game is, how do you protect the lead? And leads disappear more. Big leads disappear more often than they used to.
Sure.
Because teams want to eat up clock, and then they end up taking a 3 with a difficult 3 maybe.
Right.
And so what you need are 2-point scores. And for Orlando, that's Franz Wagner.
Yep.
He's the guy you can give the ball, and he has the knack of getting into the paint, and navigating his way. He would have helped provide them that, kind of equilibrium in the second half.
Right.
And instead, they're just launching threes.
Right.
And that's the recipe for allowing a comeback. You go cold, and very quickly the tables turn. That's what happened.
Right. Well, the thing about, and I'm glad you brought up Wagner, because clearly, as soon as he went out, which was, I think, late in Game 4, Magic won that game, of course, but his absence, you're right, in Games 5 through 7, not just offensively, but I think to provide defensive help against Cade, which I think they had done a pretty good job of doing the first 4 games, was also evident. And I, on the one hand, you think, well, if you're so delicate that Franz Wagner not being in is cost you the series, maybe you're not a very good team. But on the other hand, that just props to Wagner, must show how valuable he is to that Magic team, right?
Well, he's if he hasn't been in an All-Star game, he's borderline, and he is one of the league's better 2-point bucket getters. And there's value in those 2 points. When him and Banchero are kind of working off each other as a 1-2 punch, they're both operate that way. It can be very effective. So instead, they're just relying on guys that really are not great at putting the ball on the floor and finding their own shot. That's what Wagner can do. Banchero does it decently. He can certainly find a shot.
Yeah.
He's hot and cold. But they didn't have any other guys to do that. So, and then also in the past, they had Mo Wagner, You know, he tore his ACL last year. They did throw him in the game in Game 7, but for whatever reason, they're not relying on him. They're not asking for much, but he also is a bucket getter. So they're missing their bucket getters. You know, they don't have many.
How come in Game 7 they didn't play up? How do you pronounce it? Batiste or?
I don't know. I was
He
just
didn't play. He
thinking
didn't play
about
1
that.
minute.
I don't remember anyone saying anything. I really don't know.
That was odd, I thought.
Yeah, I thought it was odd too. You know, they shortened their bench.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Well, Pistons survived. We'll get to Nick here in a second. But I wanted to ask you the other polarizing topic of this series was Jalen Duren, and we talked after Game 1, and he had been pretty much neutralized, vanished in Game 1, and we thought that would improve. It really didn't. He really didn't really show his presence, I think, until maybe even Game 7. A little bit Game 6. I don't think he had much to do with the win in Game 5, but he did seem to kind of get his bearings and just in time. He was definitely a force in Game 7. I think at 15 and 12 or something like that. Definitely noticed him out there. And outplayed Wendell Carter Jr., which he had not done really that much for the rest of the series. Is this now? Can we now kind of get past the Duren thing, or are you still a little skittish about this guy going into the round 2?
Well, I'm a Duren believer, but you know, he's just like I was describing the Orlando guys. He doesn't go out and get his own shot.
Mm-hmm.
So if the other team can figure out a way to neutralize that was a great game plan by Orlando. I mean, how just on paper, how do you beat Detroit? You take away Detroit's advantage in getting extra shots. They did that. Orlando took more shots in the series. And then if you're looking at the lineup, the Piston roster, who do you stop? It's Duren. Duren was the guy just night after night was, you know, wreaking havoc on the league. I often talk about impact scoring nights. He easily led the Pistons. He was about 5th in the league in that category behind, you know, Durant and Jokic and Gilgeous-Alexander. And I don't know, he might have been 4th. I'd have to go look it up. But he had a great number. He had 0 in the series.
Yeah.
You know, he was neutralized. You know, he got some rebounding. You know, rebounding is part of his game. Offensive boards. He did come through with that. But the guy who shined more was Asar Thompson. To me, he was the second star. First star is Cade, second star is Thompson. He was awesome.
Yeah, he reminded me a lot of Dennis Rodman, the way he was flying around out there. We're talking with Siddy Hall, our NBA stats guru here on the Nitrix. Let's bring Nick Milanovich into the discussion. What you got for Siddy?
Well, the other guy I was thinking of, and I was just trying to look up his stats as well, is Tobias Harris really showed up in the last couple games, which is, I think they really needed it. They couldn't just have Cade in there. And
totally agree. I mean, nobody was showing up in the scoring column except for Cade. He was a one-man show. And, you know, and it's funny, too, because Harris, on his exit from Philly, they lost a Game 7, and the Philly fans were like, you know, don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Right.
And in that Game 7, he scored 0 points.
Yeah.
He shot 0 for 2.
29 minutes or something like that, yeah.
You know, and now he's the guy scoring 30. Yeah, Cade needed some help, no doubt. But you can't have to dig and claw. I mean, you go back to Game 5 even when the Pistons were down 3-1. You know, that was a nail biter. You know, they ended up winning by 7, but it was closer than that. It might have been tied with a couple minutes left. I can't remember exactly, but Cade needed some help, and now that was the game where Cade had 45.
Right.
You know, he was the aircraft carrier. But one thing I want to mention about Duren that I'm concerned about, and it's, you know, these NBA awards are coming out, and the All NBA, and when I look at, you know, in All NBA, they've got this bizarre system now where contracts are tied into awards. So think about the fact that Wemby won the Defensive Player of the Year award, and Asar Thompson was up for that, right? Well, imagine if Thompson had won that. Do you know what that means to his contract, or what that would mean? It means he would be eligible for a max deal with a plus 30%. And that happened last year with Cleveland. Evan Mobley won Defensive Player of the Year, and automatically when he was up for an extension, just like Duren is now, and that automatically elevated his salary. So Mobley, in the last year of his deal, he's going to make $61 million. And he's not a $61 million man.
Right.
So, we almost ran into that problem with Thompson. And then Duren also, if he gets named to one of the top 15, also we're going to run into problems. So why am I mentioning that now? Well, when you look at Cleveland's roster, they're not the team they were last year, and it's because of salary cap. You got to fit all these guys in, and Detroit's about to encounter. This year we're okay, obviously, but we're about to start dealing with these complications that come with guys winning awards. Happened with Cade. It might happen with Duren. Thank God Wemby's here. If I were in the Detroit front office, I would be, hiring bots to send out propaganda to all the voters every year to remind them that Wemby is number one. Don't forget to vote Wemby as Player of the Year. Don't vote for our guy.
It's interesting that you should say that. Like with Duren, as he was going through all of his playoff woes, especially in the earlier games, I saw a lot of comments about, there goes his max contract. And so.
Yeah, he didn't look like a guy who should be making that kind of money. He looks like a guy who should be, below that. But, I made my teams. I got him I got him second team All NBA. Mm-hmm. Now, it doesn't mean everyone else does, but if he's in the top 15, he's going to be eligible for a lot of money. That's going to hurt the Pistons' chances to build a great team. It's a weird system. I don't like it, especially with the. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say. I don't want to get too far into this discussion without bringing up Cade as a focus of the discussion, and not just because I wrote about him today, but did you see what I saw, Siddy, that he kind of matured before our eyes and kind of reminded us that, this is his team as the series went on?
Well, he seems. I think he showed it from day one that he understood that he's the guy. He's very serious, very self-serious. When he was healthy before his first injury, he was already trying to carry the team on his shoulders back in the dark days, right? What I like about him, you asked me about him before a couple of shows ago, and I was thinking about that question more. And I think of Cade as being like the anti-Luka Doncic. Luka's the guy constantly crying for fouls, constantly looking to the refs.
Right.
And when things are going good, he's all happy and smiling, like, yeah, another three. He's very annoying. And then you look at Cade, have you ever seen the guy smile? I haven't.
Mm-hmm. No, he's definitely a different kind of personality. But the last three games, in games 5 through 7, I was looking this up before I wrote this, and I couldn't believe it. He shot 33 for 64 overall. But he also shot 11 for 18 from 3. 11 for 18, 60% from 3. He cut down on his turnovers pretty dramatically. The interesting one to me was he only had 3 assists in Game 6. That's because I think he felt like he had to step it up and go for scoring more than passing. In the 45-point game, he had 5 assists, but and he made tons of free throws. He made all 14 of his free throws in the 45-point game. But if you look at those 3 games, my gosh, that is an incredible performance, and the 11 for 18 from 3 is mind-boggling.
Yeah, that's what's been missing from his game is like, why can't Cade shoot threes? And finally, just be a guy who knocks it down just for a couple of, one night. No one's great every night.
Well, of course not.
Once in a while, But I'm just looking at his stats, like that 45-point game, just doing a quick overview of his numbers, the way I tracked them, that equaled the best game of his career scoring-wise. In terms of efficiency and scoring load, you put that all together. So that was a great time for it. That was a 6-point win in a 3-1 deficit.
Right.
That's certainly rising to the occasion. Then he followed it up the next game. It was a little bit less efficient, but that was, you look at the score, 93-79. Nobody was, relatively speaking, he was the hot hand.
Right.
And on the floor in that game. And I got to say, too, though, it was fun. It seemed like at times it was a one-on-one battle between him and Paolo, the two number one picks in consecutive years.
Right.
Paolo also had his moments, right?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Big Al, what you got for Siddy Hall?
Oh, while we're talking about this matchup, we need to talk about defense. And it really, at times, it felt like the first team to get to 80 is going to win the game, or for that matter, the series half the time. And in watching that second half in Game 6, where they went, where Orlando was 0 for 23, had one field goal in the fourth quarter, and that was essentially the Pistons letting Banchero get a dunk because he didn't want to follow him and stop the clock.
Right.
Do you think there is was it a collapse on Orlando's part, or was it more elite defense on the Pistons, or maybe a combination thereof? Because as good as a defense is, and the Pistons really do have an elite defense. I think they're number 2 overall this year. I don't think anybody's got a defense good enough to stop a team missing 23 straight shots.
I think Orlando took their foot off the gas. I think, they went into halftime thinking they had it, and something, in their minds. And then they got that first bucket, in the second half.
Where it was 24. They were up 24.
Yeah, because it seemed like for 4.5 games or 5.5 games, like every rebound was contested. There were always two Magic guys there battling for the rebounds. And then offensively, the Pistons, suddenly they had space. Their three-point shooters had that extra split second to line up their shots. It seems like Orlando lost their intensity, or they got scared or something. I'd have to look at the tape for a second time to confirm, but I guess it depends on your perspective. But yeah, I think Orlando lost the game.
Yeah. And just to I'm sorry, go ahead. I was just going to follow up saying that they fired a coach today, obviously. But that really feels like we can't change the roster because we're paying 4 guys $150 million plus. Two of them are Suggs and Bain, who really didn't do anything. So what choice did they have? Well, and I can understand why. It was probably time to move on. They've been 3 straight knockouts in their first round. But Orlando looks like a team that they've hit their ceiling.
Yeah, it's really tough to build a winner. They're 2 years ago they were the Pistons.
Exactly.
And now I mentioned it before. Their starting 5 is going to make $190 million. And with Bain, they threw away 3 unprotected firsts to get him. So this is it. This is their team. So, their coach, Mosley, he had been there for 5 years, which is a long time in the NBA. And there was talk. It was clearly something, they weren't maxing out.
Yeah.
So that usually means the coach has to go. But what about JB? I want to talk about him a little bit. The way in Game 7 or Game 6 when they fell behind. Two things. One, for the whole 2 years he's been in Detroit, they never lay an egg. Pistons. Even games when they fall behind, they always seem to come back. If they don't come all the way back, they at least put up a battle and make things interesting. And then again here in Game 6, what I thought was crazy was the way he left Asar Thompson in the game when they needed baskets, down 24, and he smartly realized, we also need stops. And he stuck with Asar Thompson when I think a lot of other coaches would have been looking for other combinations. Left him in the game, and then, B-ball, Paul Reed, our hero, our good luck charm, entered the game too. It's just crazy the way JB can handle his roster and keep the team focused, man. I mean, the guy's a genius.
Well, just to follow up with the roster handling, there were people, and I would be lying if I didn't say us as well, saying, why not sit Doran down, play Stewart, play B-ball Paul, but there was another faction saying, do you want to screw this kid up? JBB probably knows more about how to handle this kid than we do, and if you sit him, maybe it becomes an embarrassment, who knows, and it becomes another headache he's got to handle in the locker room. So he let Doran play through his issues, and by Game 7, it looked like he was much closer to his normal self. So you think there's something to that?
Some seams opened up in the defense that let him be successful. No, but Duran, it's more than just stats. Duran, he occupies people. You got to throw one or two guys at him just to kind of tie him up on rebounds, and that has, a domino effect on other parts of the floor,
Yeah.
It's not just the numbers. There are some great rebounders who don't grab a lot of rebounds, it's hard to measure sometimes. So in Duran's case, he's our incredible Hulk, Just leave him in there. He knocks heads. And as far as Beef Stew, I don't know, was he hurt? I saw he had a lot of ice on his knees, so maybe there's something going on there.
Yeah, and he did make some iffy. He had that one really bad offensive foul, and he seemed to leave right after that as well because he was being, I think, a little too aggressive. I think that's the issue with him, is that as much as I love him, he like he was. What was it? Game 5 was it? No, game 5 where he had like 8 blocks.
Yeah,
where he's literally a force of nature at the rim. But there are other times where he literally gets his emotion get the best of him, and we saw that a few times in the series.
I would love to ask JB. I mean, he's got a complicated roster. It's a hard team to figure out. When you got basically 12 different cards you can play. And
what is
he's the resident genius, I'm not, we can just speculate.
As Chuck Daly used to say, I'm not a basketball coach. I manage 12 multi-million-dollar corporations.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
By the way, I have a question. Can I interrupt? I'm sorry, Greg.
No, go ahead.
Just one thing I was noticing throughout the series, we kept seeing former Pistons in the crowd, right?
Yes.
Mahorn's always there.
Right.
Big Ben and Rip were together.
Yep.
Vinny and James Edwards were together. Rick Mahorn's always there. Isaiah. Where's Bill Laimbeer?
That's a good question.
What happened to Billy?
I didn't see.
Have you ever
Yeah.
seen him at a Piston game?
That's a good question.
That's a great question. No, I don't remember ever seeing him. Yeah.
That's a good one.
I'm glad you said that. I think the crowd would go nuts.
One of the things I liked about
him.
that was one of the, whenever you watch a series, there's obviously the game itself is the most important thing. I also like to pay attention to those kind of things you just brought up. I love it when players either go back to their alma maters in college, like when Magic roots for the Spartans, for example, in March Madness, or when you see Mike Breen said there was a shot of Cade talking to Rip, and because they were sitting at press row with Dwayne Casey, by the way. Casey was there too.
Yeah, that's right.
And Breen said Cade Cunningham talking to Pistons royalty. And I love that term, Pistons royalty. And of course Zeke was there, and I love when players do that. It just goes to show you that, and they're all champions, which is great too. They're all champions, and so I love when players do that. I didn't see any former Magic. There may have been there. I didn't see any former Magic players show up in Orlando. Maybe they were there. I don't know. The cameras may not
they
have
don't
shown
have
them.
any banners. They don't
have They don't have the same. Right, but regardless, you would always see.
Sure, there's not one about Little Penny up in the rafters or something.
Well, the funny thing about that is, before the Pistons started winning all those championships, you guys know this. Before that, the famous fans weren't the former players. They were guys like Bob Seger, Dave Bing, Of course, Mr. D was always sitting behind under the basket in his
Right.
khakis. But there was always Bob Seger and maybe Tommy Hearns, but never any folk. Why? Because they hadn't won anything. So it was so nice to see those guys show up. But I want to get back real quick to Asar, because you brought him up, and I mentioned that he reminds me of Rodman, and he does, but the guy is such a liability, Siddy, offensively. I mean, nobody even covers him when he's got the ball. He drives right in the lane, nobody even pays attention to him, and he never takes the shot because he's so bad offensively. Doesn't he have to develop some sort of offensive game? Because essentially the Pistons are almost playing 4-on-5. He's a great defensive player, but he has no offensive game whatsoever.
What did Dwayne Thomas say after the Super Bowl? Did he say apparently or evidently?
Yeah, evidently,
evidently not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. It's in today's NBA. What Asar's doing is just so against the grain.
Right.
He just stands over there outside the 3-point line, and the defense can just forget about him.
Right.
But it does provide like this little safety valve. They can safely throw the ball to him if someone's in trouble, you throw it to Asar, and he is a good ball handler. And you need more than one ball handler on the floor, and he can find guys. And he does that thing up and down the baseline where he slips into cracks and catches passes for dunks. That's really old school. That's three-point line NBA.
Right.
So he exists in the different. Well, obviously he's got to make up for it at the defensive end,
right.
And no team has an answer for him. No one. There's just him and his brother. And he's the fastest guy to the rim. He's the fastest guy to the rebound. And he's always. He's springy. He's a quick leaper.
Right.
And that's just nobody can deal with that. They're already dealing with Jalen Duren.
Right.
Maybe that's the answer to your question. Duren and Thompson together. Teams can't deal with both of them at the same time around the rim. You got the Hulk and you got, the kangaroo.
Right. Yeah.
And, how many times does he get his hands on balls? He keeps balls alive. Slapping the ball off the glass, coming up with steals, blocking 4 shots, coming up with steals between the free throw lines, ball goes the other way for a dunk. He's uncanny.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he steals. No pass is safe when he's in the vicinity. Not even like a generic regular pass after a bucket. He does not. His motor is. He doesn't take a play off defensively.
He doesn't get into foul trouble while doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
true.
This is a really cool team, like him and Cade and Duren. These guys are just kind of, their emotions they kind of keep everything under control and just doing their job. The lunch bucket gang, Yeah. And it fits Detroit well, right?
We're talking with Siddy Hall here on the knee jerk. Let's bring Nick Milanovich back into the discussion. What you got for Siddy?
Actually, a couple unrelated things. The first one is maybe more along the lines of what we're talking about is the guy I haven't seen on the court much is Ron Holland, who's another scrappy defensive player. But there are a couple of games he didn't play at all, if I'm not mistaken, or minimal time on the court.
You're right. He collected at least 2 DNPs, maybe the last 3 games. Pretty close to, maybe.
Well, JB emptied the bench at the end of Game 7, so he got some garbage time there. Yeah.
Right, but there's a challenge for JB. He's going to have to somehow keep Ron on board while this happens. Obviously, that's a tough thing to handle for him. But I don't think it's because of his performance. They have redundancy. Him and Javonte Green are pretty similar guys. And Green was playing good basketball early in the series, getting his hands on a lot of balls, getting involved in the rebounding. He's a little bit better of a 3-point shooter, but that didn't really reveal itself during the series. So I think a lot of it was just because of Javonte Green. He just decided just to reduce it to one guy. But I think we'll see Holland again in the next series, just a guess. But I don't think he's being punished.
the three of us sometimes talk like during these games is thinking you can't have Thompson and Ron Holland in the game at the same time because now you have two non-shooters basically.
That's right. I agree.
And
Yeah, there's a lot.
so-
In fact, when they drafted Holland, I was confused by that for that exact reason. Like, we already got Thompson who can't shoot. Why do we want another guy like that? Same size, same spot on the floor. But so far it's worked. But you're correct. Yeah, you can't play them together.
He might be a trade chip though in the future, like if they're going to be active in the off season.
Can't pay everybody.
If Lou Alcindor got traded, I guess they all can be, right?
Or
Look at my
Luka, right?
point of reference. Oh my God.
Yeah, no kidding.
Who?
Let's. I'm
Let
going to
me
go to
ask-
big. We'll
I
go
was
to big
gonna
on
ask
a
one more
second.
question.
Go ahead.
The other part, going back to JB, one of the things I'm seeing and noticing about like comments about Bickerstaff is that he can't win in the playoffs, and because I think he's only gotten so far when he coached Cleveland in the playoffs, and
Well,
they basically
last-
underachieved after good seasons.
I've now, in my mind, Bickerstaff, I didn't really notice him that much through the years. He's just kind of this vet coach who was just okay. His teams played pretty well, I guess. I never had a major impression on him. And then, when he left Cleveland, they took off, right? They brought in Kenny Atkinson, and they improved about 20 wins. So that looked like Atkinson was the reason, maybe, or part of the reason. So, but again, coaches are really hard to evaluate. We speculate, we try to understand what they're doing, but they're managers, right? It's a management position, and dealing with all the personalities. And these days they don't really call plays that much. You just kind of let the players operate, and you're trying to make the pieces fit. And in JB's case, he has more cards in his hands than most coaches. So that could be a benefit, or it could make things more complicated. But the way he's handled this 11 or 12, even if you count Sasser, 13-man roster, he's been outstanding. And you can look at other teams that don't develop talent. They get suffocated. It just rots on the bench, and he does both. He gets everybody their minutes, makes everybody happy, it seems like. I love the guy.
So, I mean, when Atkinson took over for Cleveland, he may have had a better regular season, but it was the exact same result in the playoffs. So is that really the coach, or is it just this is the roster?
Yeah, we can only guess, right? Again, it's really hard to evaluate. I mean, look at Phil Jackson. He had Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, so he won lots of titles, right? That helps a little bit.
Right.
So it's hard to say. But we're going to, JB's facing his old team now and starting tomorrow, right?
Yeah, media's going to love that. That's going to be a great narrative throughout the series. You were talking about coaches out calling plays. I remember when going to watch the Pistons play in the Silverdome when they weren't very good in Isaiah's early years, and you could hear the players call the plays out because that's how quiet the dome was. And they had a system of plays where they were the plays were named after colleges. So Isaiah would come down and say, UCLA, or he'd say Alabama, and then everybody would, run their plays, run their sets. And you can hear it throughout the whole stadium because it was so quiet, like 8,000 fans in that cavernous dome, and you could sit. I would sit relatively close to the floor, and you could hear every single thing that was going on the court. It was kind of funny. I want to talk real quick about Danis Jenkins, though, because this guy, he's frenetic. I think that's the best way to put to me. He's a frenetic player, seemingly out of control at times, makes me nervous. And he hit some big threes in Game 7. I don't trust him yet. Am I wrong to not trust him yet?
Well, he's not a pure shooter. You know, he's a good shooter, but not a knockdown.
I don't mean just
shooter.
shooting. I mean, as a basketball player in general.
I trust him. You know, he's quick. You know, he's quick and he's got good agility with the ball. He's a good ball handler. He keeps his head up. He's not going to lose his dribble. And that's what his job, really. He helps, you know, they need someone like that, especially to take some pressure off Cade. You got to, you know, what they call the usage. He's the usage guy. It's really strange, though. I mean, you look at, you know, the genius of Trajan Langdon, you know, being able to take advantage of little cracks in the little small salary slots and get a player. That's how you win championships. You got a guy making, you know, a minimum wage, playing 28 minutes or whatever he did in a game 7. He had a great performance. You got Paul Reed coming off the bench, making just a little bit over the minimum. Javonte Green playing 20 minutes, making the minimum. That's how you win championships. They're getting, you know, ROI, return on investment. You know, instead of being like Orlando and counting on 5 guys who each make $35 million a year, doing it without any help or very little help. So it's just great management, front office, coaching, and believing in a guy, you know, giving the keys to a guy like that on a two-way deal. That's very unusual. Something that would never have happened under what's his name, the last.
Oh, Troy Weaver, no way.
No way.
Absolutely, you're right. We're talking with Siddy Hall, our NBA stats guru here on the Knee Jerks. I'm Greg Eno, and along with Nick Milanovich, who you just heard. And let's bring Big Al Beaton back in. What you got for Siddy?
Let's talk a little bit about the first round in general, because I don't remember a wilder one in quite some time. There was 3 Game 7s. We had 2 3-1 comebacks. Every series in the East went at least 6 games. 6 series total went at least 6 games. And we had 2 upsets with the number 2 seed Celtics lost in 7 games to the Sixers. That was quite delicious to see, which also leaves the Tobias Harris versus the Philadelphia fan base. That dramatic should happen in another round. And obviously, in the West, the Nuggets fell in 6 to a very shorthanded Timberwolves, which has led to talk that maybe the championship window has closed on Jokic and on the Nuggets. So I don't know how much of the first rounds all the games you were able to watch, but there was some fascinating basketball going on.
So my favorite result out of the first round, besides Detroit, was that Minnesota-Denver result. I love seeing Denver get knocked out. I love seeing the Jokic fans suffer. These people are insufferable. It's not Jokic's fault. He just goes out there and plays basketball, but they make this guy like Jesus. And it infuriates me. And so watching him get knocked out in the first round, you know, in last year's playoffs too, he was struggling for both against the Clippers and Oklahoma City. So, you know, these people got to get their rose-tinted glasses off and see him for who he is. But yeah, you know, Denver, you know, you need help. You know, his second best guy, you know, it was Aaron Gordon. Gordon didn't show up on the scoring column a lot, but that was, you know, their muscle. They needed that muscle next to Jokic because he is a horrible defender. And you need someone there who can bang heads. Because Nikola, for some reason, with that Bill Laimbeer body, just won't do it. So, you know, they got to do it at the offensive end. And then, you know, Rudy Gobert was there, you know, and Jaden McDaniels, 2 lockdown defenders, just like Asar Thompson, you know, and it was interesting.
You think we're going to see it's fait accompli at this point that it's going to be the Spurs and OKC in the Western Finals?
Yeah, it's inevitable. That's the finals. Yeah, we got to change this. Why can't they play in the finals? You know, it's impossible. That's the finals.
Yeah.
You know, imagine. Okay, whoever wins that matchup, should it take place, and they end up playing, you know, Philadelphia or something.
Right.
You know, well, at least Philly's got Joel Embiid, so there's something. But it's going to be anticlimactic. You know. That's going to be one for that's going to be a huge battle. Anyway, Philadelphia. we have a lot of these guys still alive that are super annoying to watch.
Yeah.
Embiid, Doncic if he gets healthy, James Harden we're going to have to watch for a couple
Oh God, I hate watching him play. I hate
These
it.
foul baiters, man, that just nonstop. And people are already getting really angry with Joel Embiid.
Oh, and Brunson, yes. Oh,
yeah, Brunson.
and Knicks
up
fans
there.
in general, yes.
But we're going to get to watch Harden. Now, Harden's not as bad as he used to be. I used to call him Snappy Head. He's the original, the guy, every time he even feels something brushing the head, does this, and trying to draw calls. He's not as bad as he used to be. He hangs out more on the perimeter. But, I'm feeling good about the Pistons' chances.
I was just going to say, let's segue into round two. We may as well. We've beaten round one to death. I know this is a matchup, Siddy, that you've been wanting to see for a while now, and it's here. And what excites you most about this matchup?
Well, I love their big four. They got Mobley, Jared Allen, Mitchell, and Harden. I mean, that's a heck of a foursome. It's not peak Harden, but it's pretty good Harden. And, Mitchell, the guy the Pistons didn't draft.
Yep.
Well, now
right.
he's wonderful to watch. He's a great player to watch. Jared Allen's one of my favorite players. Kind of a funny guy. He's got that big Soul Train fro going, but he's kind of nerdy at the same time. He always strikes me as a guy that would be like the AV club at school, that you thought was going to be like some crazy guy, but he's not. And they also have what I believe the dorkiest player in the NBA. He gets my vote. It's their backup center, Thomas Bryant. So keep an eye on Thomas Bryant and see if you agree with me that he is quite a dork in basketball. No springs, no nothing, but he's a good shooter. He can score, and it's frustrating because he doesn't look like he should be able to do that. That's why he's in the league, right?
Yeah.
But I do like the Pistons have more depth. Cleveland's a different team than last year. They lost. The big thing is they lost Ty Jerome. He was like the sixth man of the year almost off the bench. He was amazing last year. Because of their contracts, they couldn't re-sign him, right? Then they had to trade DeAndre Hunter in February because Cleveland is number one in salaries right now. They pay the most penalty. They're paying $69 million in taxes. This team is under pressure to perform. So they traded DeAndre Hunter. They got Dennis Schroeder back, Keon Ellis. Guys they don't really need. They got like too many guards. They got Sam Morrell, who's a good shooter. But they don't have enough bigs. They lost Hunter, who was a rangy wing. It's a team that's out of balance. So they're completely dependent on their big four and then Max Strus, who's a nice player, nice shooter. But the Pistons just have too many weapons, I think.
Well, Al mentioned all the game sevens in round one, and obviously this matchup has two teams that played game sevens. Does that figure into when you come off a first round series that went 7 games? Both teams are coming off that situation. It's tempting to say, well, it's a wash. It's not going to be a factor because both teams played 7. But of the two teams, do you think it matters that they both won 7 games, or is that a complete non-factor heading into the second round?
Well, I guess I can only guess, but usually when you're number one seed, you don't want to be using this much energy to get to the next round, right? But they've got that adrenaline going the way they came back from game 6. They came back from the dead. The Pistons came back from the dead. So
literally, yeah.
In terms of momentum, that's got to be helping them more than it would help Cleveland. But that's just speculation.
Right.
I mean, who knows? It's just Pistons are deeper. Let's just see if we can get Beef Stew back, get Herter back. Have some depth. And I love, and again, as I mentioned before, I love that JB is using his bench and not, leaning too heavily on 5 guys, because it is a long slog to the finish line.
Now, we talked about, last time you were here, we talked about some of the foibles that the Pistons have that were kind of exposed in Game 1. And one of the things that critics of the Pistons were saying throughout the league was that they don't have enough help for Cade. Now, obviously, we mentioned a couple of people who did help, and one of them on the defensive end was a star, obviously, but offensively, Tobias Harris. I think four straight games he scored more than 20. Scored 30 in Game 7. I don't know that the Pistons win that series without Tobias. However, I'm not a believer that Tobias can continue that, and that's just not hate against Tobias. He's a 33-year-old dude, and I'm just not sure if he's going to be the running mate for Cade in this playoff run. That's great. I don't know that I would count on what happened against Orlando with him, Harris, to happen against the Cavs.
No, you can't. It's not going to happen. He's just going to show up once a week, right. and have a nice help out in the scoring column. But he brings a lot to the table because he's unusual that he's both a wing and a banger.
Right.
Those hybrids have great value. He has his little spots on the floor where he can get you a 2-pointer.
Right.
But this is who the Pistons are. I talked about this before. Their makeup is not the kind of team that wins championships on paper. They are a team that gets by on getting extra shots and rebounding and the turnover area. They scratch and claw. This is the Memphis Grizzlies. And the Grizzlies never made it to the NBA Finals.
Right.
They were tough in the regular season. They're annoying. They were annoying to play against. That's who Detroit is. So can they be that team to get, let's just say, to the finals with this formula? That would be a heck of an accomplishment. But, if we're talking about shooting the basketball and who's going to be Cade's sidekick, I don't see it. Where's it going to come from? We were kind of hoping it would be Ivy, and that they gave up on that. So is it going to be Dennis Jenkins? I don't think so. You're just going to have to hope collectively they can just grind their way. I guess the difference maker in his own weird way, in my mind, it's Thompson. He's the guy that other teams don't have. He's their wild card, this guy who creates value in these other ways. And in Cleveland, where their talent is very concentric.
Yeah.
It's concentrated. When you can throw Asar at one of these guys, that's huge. If he can neutralize Harden or Mitchell, that's going to be a win for the Pistons.
But what if somebody like Duncan Robinson catches fire? I always thought this guy, well, I'm not a big Robinson fan necessarily, but if he can catch fire, and we saw a little bit of that in this series, especially in Game 7, we also saw droughts from him as well. He does one thing, essentially, is shoot threes. He's not a good defender. He's not a good off-the-ball guy. But what if he gets out? What if he gets out?
He gets a little – I don't like the way people talk about him and his defense. I think he plays pretty hard. He's not elite, of course, but he comes from Miami. And Miami was like one of the first teams to figure out that on defense, you do it on the perimeter, you make it gummy, you scratch and you claw. He knows how to do that, So, okay, he doesn't play above the rim, but he's hard-nosed. So he's okay. But as far as his scoring, no, he's not at the peak level of his career. Right. He's going to be a guy. He's going to give you a couple of games in a 7-game series, basically. Right. This year, impact scoring nights. I think he had about 20, one every 4 games. So he'll have 1 or 2.
Right.
That'll be his contribution.
It'll be called the Duncan Robinson game. Right. I get it. Yeah. We got one more around the horn here with Nick and Al before we let you go. Nick, what you got?
I was actually thinking about Duncan Robinson already, so we hadn't talked about him.
Well, I'll fill in for you. The
Thanks a lot,
matchup to
Greg.
watch- well, the matchup to watch is going to be Duran against their two bigs. Jared Allen, even Mobley. Mobley often plays more on the perimeter. He's very versatile. He goes inside, outside, defensively. Defensive Player of the Year last year. And Jared Allen, I mentioned him earlier. I love Jared Allen. I think he's excellent. His game's very narrow. You'll never see him do things beyond his scope. But he plays very tall, a lot of tomahawk dunks. And him and Duran, they have very different body types and MOs. I'm going to be very curious to see how that matchup goes.
And Big Al, what you got?
Do you think someone who didn't make an impact in the first series may make an impact in the second series against the Cavaliers? Do you think there's someone coming off the Pistons bench who could be a difference maker who wasn't a difference maker in the first round?
Well, there was a lot of candidates, right?
Yeah.
I guess we got to start with health. Is Beef Stew healthy? That would be the first guy that comes to my mind. Is Herter coming back? Will they use him? But let's analyze. Who came off the bench for Detroit in the series? A lot. We saw a lot of Jenkins. Javonte Green got some decent minutes.
It was noticeable that LeVert stopped getting minutes as the series went on.
That's right. LeVert disappeared.
But he got quite a bit of run in the first few games.
Yeah. Well, I was not crazy about the signing of Karis LeVert. He had a couple. I remember one game he was helping out on the boards a lot and doing things that you normally don't expect from him. He's more of an alpha scorer, kind of your bench guy scorer when you need someone to go out there and take some shots. But they just don't drop enough, Yeah. So they might give him a chance. They'll probably give him another chance to see if he can carry the second unit a little bit. But he has not had a good year.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, especially when looking at what Tim Hardaway Jr. has ended up doing with Denver this year. It ended up being a big downgrade for the Pistons.
Yeah, that's kind of a curiosity why they allowed him to go away, minimum wage. Mm-hmm. I guess they figured Robinson would fill that role. He has these, that's kind of a wash. But the LeVert part, I guess, took over the Beasley minutes, and that certainly was a downgrade, right? Mm-hmm. Where is Malik?
Still tweeting, apparently, about Detroit, but other than that, yeah.
Yeah,
he's kind of in no man's land of the NBA right now.
It's sad. It makes me sad. He was so fun to watch.
He was.
Yeah, he was. Siddy Hall, we'll come back and see us on May 18th, win or lose. Hopefully it'll be the former, and we're always happy to have him along throughout this playoff run. Thanks for being here, and have a great night.
All right. Thanks for having me again, you guys. Take it easy.
All right. Thanks, Siddy.
All right. All right, Siddy Hall. It's interesting about LeVert he got minutes a little bit earlier in the series and stopped getting minutes. Javonte Green I think got kind of consistent minutes throughout the series.
Right.
I didn't see much of LeVert after Game 4. I don't think I have to go back and look at the box scores, but I didn't see much of him after Game 4. I think as the series went on, JB definitely shortened the bench for sure.
A big time he did.
Yeah, which that makes sense.
Yeah, because I think Beef Stew only got like 8 or 9 minutes in Game 7.
Yeah, and of course the whole Paul. We didn't really talk much about Paul Reed, but the Paul Reed thing was also.
But Paul Reed did give a nice spark in was it Game 5? Yes, I think that made a big difference, and it played a role in that win. And things kept rolling from there, even though we will not speak about the first half of Game 6. So
right.
Well, something I want to ask you guys that we didn't really have much to talk about was the contract extension for Bickerstaff. I'm seeing a lot of either hate or why online. When I think there's a lot of people have this first round series is still too fresh in their minds.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if they gave him the extension now, this has been in the works for a while because these things don't happen in a vacuum. They didn't decide last night, let's extend JBB.
Right.
This had to have been going on for a while.
Yeah. And I don't get why they gripe over him. And I think it is related to maybe however he did in Cleveland.
Cleveland, yeah.
And but if you look at what he did in Detroit, he came in and instantly that switch flipped from the catastrophe that was Monty, with not that much, some difference in the roster the very next year, but that was a huge swing in wins. Nobody was predicting seeing 44 wins.
No.
Not even
44 than 60? No way. Yeah.
Like, what the hell is? And I got to tell you, I'm enjoying every second of it. And so, plus, he's got a young roster that he's managing. Imagine him having to coach these guys down 3-1.
Yeah.
And looking like crap. They barely pull it out in Game 5. Game 6, you remember the three of us were texting. The first half was a nightmare, and I said, screw it, I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah.
I can't even watch. I never saw this happen. They go, like, who the hell did? It was amazing. So the fact that he held this young group together and, made it through the first round, maybe he is a good coach.
Well, there's something to be said for that. I mean, that's fair. I mean, I hadn't really thought of it that way, but you're right. He had a young team, mostly young team, down 3-1, to your point, Nick, in a series when none of them really had any sort of playoff success to speak of. Many of them were in the playoffs for the first time in their careers last year, lost the series, couldn't win a game at home in that series. And now here they are, 3-1, like you said. And I mean, I think obviously coaches are always going to be lightning rods for criticism, and especially when things aren't going well. And the bitching about JB was about rotations, substitutions, lack of timeouts, all the things that the usual stuff that every team's fan base complains about their coach all the time. Really nothing new there. But to your point, that is, there's something to be said about obviously Siddy is a big fan of his as well. There's something to be said about going beyond just a guy's X's and O's. With Mosley, what I was seeing in the Magic Reddit was kind of the opposite, that they liked him as a person, but didn't like him as a basketball, didn't like his X's and O's, didn't like his decision, didn't like his lack of they don't have a true point guard, the lack of offensive plays. Why didn't he call more timeouts during that meltdown in Game 6? Great guy, they said. He served us well, but it's time to move on. So it was kind of the opposite, where JB gets criticized in Detroit for lack of X's and O's, but everybody, not lack for the X's and O's, but doesn't maybe get enough credit for all those other intangibles that you said.
And if you think about it, if you listen to him talk about his team and the team talk about him, they really trust him.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Think about it. I mean, they trust him. They feel like he's got their back.
Right.
And that's not
there's a lot of intangibles there, right? A lot of things that we're not privy to, and that mean a lot to these guys. And I guess I hate to use that term because it's so overused, but a player's coach. I hate that term. That's kind of where I get with him. And of course, that only goes so far. I think that Siddy's observation is dead on, that nobody that's been constructed like the Pistons are currently constructed has ever really won a championship, at least in the modern NBA. So we'll see how far they can go. But you're right about the trust thing. You're right about that they love to play for him. He said, and I believe him when he said this, I don't think this is coach speak. Somebody asked him after Game 7 about being down 3-1, and did you ever have any bad thoughts go through your head? And he said, to be honest with you, I never thought we weren't going to win the series. And I believe him. I mean, I believe he's not. I don't think he's just saying that in retrospect. When he says that, I believe that he believed that. And I think that if he believes that, then his players are going to believe it.
All right. Quick question, guys. We actually have someone we have a comment. Someone's listening live. Okay. And he's asking, do you think the Pistons can win it all?
It's funny. We just talked about that a couple seconds ago. They're not, the way they're currently constructed. No, I don't think they've got enough to win it all. I don't know that they've got enough to make it out of the East. Quite frankly.
I feel the same way. They don't have the 3-point shooting is going to catch up with them sooner or later.
Yeah.
They need some outside shooting, and it's gonna catch up. Maybe this round might be in the conference finals, and even if they do get to the finals, they match up horribly with the Spurs. They just can. Nobody can stop Wemby, as we saw in the regular season.
Right.
So they do match up a little better with OKC, but OKC is a much deeper team, at least with the starting five. So the Pistons are so far ahead of schedule that we're even talking about the finals. Says volumes about how far they've come, but they are not there yet.
No, but they could be very, 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 very good if Trajan makes the right moves this summer.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Yeah,
All right, Nick, what about you?
I don't see them winning it just because I agree with you. They match up terribly with San Antonio.
Yeah.
They look like a deer in the headlights in the couple of games they played against the Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
OKC, it might be a little bit better, but not enough. And OKC's, they're the reigning champs, and they're extremely experienced. Mm-hmm. So it's not, and they're a hell of a defensive team too. Yeah. So the Pistons just don't have enough shooting, is my guess right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the things from the first round that was a little bit is unpredictable, actually, is the first few games. Their shooting was cold as can be.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't, and you didn't see it coming where all of a sudden they found their shots. And so the Pistons are still a little bit, feels like one extreme or the other. Like they had a hell of a lot of turnovers. And what is
I was just going to say, it wasn't just the shooting; it was the ball handling, the lazy.
It was sloppy and skippy.
The basketball was just horrific to watch. They really. But as the series went on, they tightened it up a little bit. But they were really loosey-goosey with the basketball for too long in that series, and they could get away with that against Orlando. Mm-hmm. But that was one of the reasons they fell behind 3-1, and they were so bad with the basketball.
It was infuriating with some of those turnovers. Yeah.
Yes, they lost a lot of possessions.
Exactly.
And first 4 games of that series.
From an optimistic standpoint, you hope that was the slap in the face and, they woke up from that kind of thing. But, man, it was sloppy in the first few games. Really sloppy. Hard to watch.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But, I hope they – and I think Kay did allude to that. They said we needed this to cake that punch, come back, and kind of figure things out. Like, and like I said, Isaiah Thomas didn't come out of the womb winning championships. Neither did Chauncey Billups.
No,
or any of these guys. It's a process, and it's very, very, very hard to skip steps. And right now, the Pistons are still climbing up those steps.
Yeah, well, right. And you can make a case that Chauncey Billups, for example, was a journeyman before the Pistons.
Exactly. They got him cheap.
He played for the Celtics. He played for the who else did he play for? The Magic.
Yeah.
Did he play for the Magic?
No, he played for the Timberwolves.
Timberwolves. I'm sorry.
That's it. Yeah, because that's who the Pistons got. Signed him from.
Yeah. Not somebody played for the Magic that they got too. I can't remember. Maybe I'm making that up. But.
Ben Wallace? No, he was the Bullets.
Wallace was.
I want to call him the Bullets. I'm sorry, the Wizards.
Wallace was at the Magic, I think.
He was with the Magic.
He came over when the
in the sign and trade. Yeah.
Yeah, he came over with Chucky Atkins, I think.
Yep,
yes.
Yep.
All right. Well. Yes. All right. With that,
it was a throw-in.
All right.
You know what time it is, Greg?
It's time to play a game we like to call Whose Birthday Is It, Maestro? Everybody knows how we play this game by now. I give Al and Nick a clue or 2 or 3 of an individual whose birthday it is today in the world of sports. And if one of those gentlemen can correctly guess this person within the first 2 clues, he'll win some incense.
Ooh.
Yes. You can burn some Nick can burn some incense while he's at the beach, and although I don't know if you really burn incense when you're outside, but
You know how much pot is smoked around here? Like,
Yeah,
it better be a lot of incense.
Probably smells like whole city in Seattle smells like patchouli or something. I'm guessing.
Oh
so.
man, it's like a Cheech and Chong movie.
Al, this is the first time in this podcast history that I've gone to a different day because today's birthday list was so bad that I didn't even know who half these people were, and I didn't expect you guys to, or they were so old that I didn't expect Nick to get, because some of the anybody I would have picked were born like in the 20s. So I went to May 3rd. So this person, and this was even a struggle. This person was born yesterday. In 1946, sadly passed away. Just lost this person in December of 2024. But he was not a player or a coach. He was a broadcaster, I will tell you that. Very long-time broadcaster in the world of sports and broadcasts a lot of big-time games. Had a brother in the business as well, and passed away, like I said, in December of 2024. Brother combo.
Not Van Gundy.
No. There's a broadcaster. Strictly a broadcaster. Never a coach, never a player.
Okay.
Strictly a broadcaster. And his brother was a broadcaster.
Last name would have been one of the Carey brothers, would it? Skip Carey, Chip Carey?
No, good guess. That's a good guess. No.
Yeah.
No.
Huh. Brother combo.
No clue. Got me on this one.
Yeah, my guess would have been the Careys, so I guess we're going to have to wait for question two.
He's got a very, very famous brother who broadcast for NBC Sports for years.
Gumbel?
Yes, Greg Gumbel.
Gumbel.
Yeah.
You gave it away with CBS there, yes.
Yeah, Greg Gumbel.
Yes. Greg Gumbel.
Greg passed away December of 2024 at age 78.
Yes.
I always preferred him to Brian Gumbel, quite frankly. I thought Brian Gumbel was a little bit too.
Because I was thinking he was the NBC football host, if I remember.
Yeah,
right?
he did a lot of.
That's where he got famous anyway. Before he went on to become a journalist.
Right, exactly. He did a lot of in studio, like halftime show stuff and pregame.
Right, exactly.
But he also called some games as well. He called the Olympics. He did a lot of stuff for CBS.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
I didn't realize he was a sports broadcaster. I remember him just like all that.
What, Brian Gumbel?
Right.
Greg Gumbel was always. Greg Gumbel was always a
Greg. Yeah, Greg was strictly sports. Yeah.
Brian Gumbel.
I didn't think he was that old. He didn't look that old.
I know.
Actually,
I didn't either. And Brian Gumbel must be older, right?
Yeah,
no,
he's the older brother. Yeah.
Yeah, 48. Brian Gumbel. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, that's.
Well, you kind of gave us a gimme there when you started giving us networks. So.
Yeah, I felt bad for you guys. I felt like I had to. So. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I guess we will share the incense, Nick, since we both pretty much said Gumbel at the same time. So.
That works.
Unless Nick was yelling Gumbo, I don't know. All right. With that, we got a couple of topics to hit on before we hit the road here. Honestly, I wasn't sure where we were going to lead with because obviously we had the Lions draft, and Greg and I for years when we talk about the draft, it's like we don't know shit about Shinola when it comes to how a draft's actually going to work out. So we might touch on that. At least I think what's more interesting is the fact that Brad Holmes actually leaned into I drafted guys you wanted me to draft this time kind of thing. But the bigger story broke today, and that was with the Tigers. They've been hovering as there's a big rain delay at Comerica Park now, as their bullpen imploded again. And the Tigers have been hit extremely hard by injuries. They're right at 500. They've been hovering around 500 all year ever since they got off that. They've recovered from that sweep in Minnesota, and they've been around 500 ever since.
Right,
but the injury bug is just killing them right now. They are missing so many starting pitchers. It's scary between Verlander and Melton and Job and Olsen and blah blah blah.
Right.
And then the big one hit today. It was announced that Tarek Skubal, the two-time reigning Cy Young winner, has an elbow injury. He's going to miss. Right now, the timeline is still a little sketchy, but I've seen reference for the type of surgery it is, 2 to 3 months. They're saying should be able to come back, but it'll be late in the season, probably for a stretch run if the Tigers are still in the hunt at that point. But he needs arthroscopic elbow surgery to remove what they're terming loose bodies, whatever that means. Probably bone chips, obviously, in his left elbow. It's a massive, massive blow, guys, to the Tigers' postseason chances. The injuries alone, oh my God, Zach McKinstry's off, hurt. Will Vest is hurt. Torres is hurt. Kenley Jansen, who has been struggling, is hurt. I mean, we're seeing pitching chaos again. We've seen it the last 2 nights. But this one, guys, Scooble, this is a body blow.
Well, your initial thought is yes, it is. But when you look at that division, Cleveland's not any good either. The White Sox aren't good, even though they're playing better this year. They got this kid who hits home runs every night. Well, that's fine. They got a nice rookie. They're getting better. Royals stink. The Twins stink. There's really nobody in that division that scares me. The Guardians, I don't know. They once again, they're doing Guardian things, which is with the barely winning record with a negative run differential. They do that every year. They did the entire year last year. They won the division with a negative run differential. I don't know how they do that, but they do. They got voodoo over there in Cleveland. Quan's not hitting well. Quan's hitting like 220.
Yeah.
So yes, it's a blow. There's no question about it. But in that division, I don't know how much of a blow it really is. What's bad about what you just said about the injuries to the rotation is that the guys who are healthy stink for the most part. Valerdi stinks. Framber's been good. He's been good. Thank God they signed Framber.
Yes.
It's a great signing now.
Yeah.
But Fleury's no good. He's no good. Mize isn't he?
He's hurt.
Too?
He's hurt. He's out for at least 2 weeks, probably more.
Yeah, and so that's why you can never go into a season and say, "Here's my 5 guys."
Nope.
I mean, you want to say
you need at least 10.
Right. You want to say, "Here's my 5 rotation." They may, for a couple of weeks at the beginning of the season, they may be all 5, but Verlander hasn't even started yet.
Yeah.
But again, he's 43. I mean, it's not like that. It's not like that's a shock. Okay. They said he had a good bullpen session, Verlander. Okay, that's fine. He's 43 years old. All of a sudden now, you hope that he comes back. You hope the 43-year-old guy has got something left. You mentioned Jansen, and he's blown 3 saves. I think all of them with walk-off home runs. I think.
Yep.
And that's not good.
Yeah.
He's not the same guy. And the Tigers have done this. You know this, Al and Nick. Tigers have done this for years. Signed washed-up closers. They've been doing this forever. Washed-up closers. And then they're surprised when the washed-up closers implode, Jansen's,
It's like
38, 39 or
closers.
something? Isn't Jansen like 38 or 39 himself?
He's, I think, 37, something like that.
Okay, yeah.
But he's been around forever.
Right. The Scooble thing hurts. There's no question about it. If that timeline that you're talking about, I've read it too, 2 to 3 months holds true, then you're talking, late July, sometime in August. Would they still? I can't imagine that the Guardians are going to run away and hide from this division by August. I can't fathom they being so ahead, the Guardians, that the Tigers are out of it in August. I can't imagine that. And nobody else in that division is any good either. So they've got a shot still. It's a body blow, to use your term. That's true. But I think they can withstand it because the division's so bad.
Yeah, it's that's a saving grace, so to speak. That and they signed Framber, which could be a literal life ring for this team, at least with the rotation, because it's starting to look more and more like it was when it was a couple years ago, where and it was 3 days of the rotation was pitching chaos, and we've had pitching chaos the last 2.
Especially after they traded Flaherty. Remember when they traded
Flaherty?
Flaherty?
Exactly, because they traded Flaherty, exactly.
And it was sellers, and then it was really chaos in the second half of the season. Yeah.
So, it's, but that's the one reason why. There's a few reasons. One, as you said, that the division that's the big one. And it's also the fact that Scooble should be back, but I think the main thing I heard mentioned, I heard a little bit of the press conference today, and they're saying he's going to need essentially a training camp to get ramped up back to speed. So so it's not just the surgery.
Right.
It's he's going to need about 6 weeks of building his strength up back in his arm.
Right,
so that's why they're talking probably August at the earliest.
Right.
It's, and I guess the other thing we should say, and there's Kevin McGonigal.
Right, yeah, right.
Who was voted AL Rookie of the Month, who was 884 OPS, he's 2.1 more. He's tracking for a 9 more season.
Right.
That's like Mike Trout level.
Yeah, that's MVP
type stuff.
Yeah.
So, but still, this is still. Well, let me ask you this, guys. I don't know if you started to see it online. They say, well, they should have traded Scooble, like. The old hindsight is 2020,
right.
And what gets me, you could. And the thing that gets me, so the people who say you should have traded Scooble, so you were ready to wave the white flag on the season. That's essentially what they would have done. Yeah. And this is a team that, as much as they have struggled on and off the last 2 seasons, they have made the playoffs. And once you get in, anything can happen, as we have seen in the last 2 playoffs. So that's what gets me is the people say you should have. Well, if you're going to say that, then you should have said they should have traded Scooble 2 years ago, not last season, because that's when his value was even higher. Then realistically, do you think the Tigers don't need prospects at this point? They need actual guys who can play, and the type of teams that would trade for Scooble aren't going to give you everyday players in return. So that argument, I find it absolutely infuriating. Because it's gotten to the point where you had to write it out with Scooble, and the only other option you had was maybe a trade deadline this year deal. But even then, as you said, Greg, this division is so up for grabs. Odds are the Tigers are going to be in, at the very least, in the wild card hunt at that point. And you're not going to trade them anyway.
Right.
If you lose them, you lose them. I guess the other hope is maybe his price goes down because now he might be considered damaged goods.
That's the other thing I'm seeing too. Yeah.
So, who knows? But I just think saying that, I hate hindsight is 2020 bullshit, especially in a topic like this.
Yeah.
And especially stuff like that where we should have done this back then, and it's like, it's very sort of like superficial insight.
Mm-hmm.
So like. Yeah, or we should have drafted so-and-so. Like, who the fuck should we know that guy was going to be any good?
Yes.
Seriously.
Oh, God, I hate that. And you can say that for every sport where people say that, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, the Lions should, the Lions should have drafted Randy Moss. Well, yeah, about 20 other teams passed him up, too, so.
Or they could have picked up Tom Brady. It's like,
right.
The Lions picking up Tom Brady would have driven his career right into the ground.
Right.
Because that's what they did. And,
well, honestly, that kind of gives us a good segue. We can kind of lean into the Lions before we kind of start wrapping things up. We might touch on the NCAA basketball tournament news, but more so than the draft guys, which, I just found interesting how Brad Holmes kind of leaned into the, you don't pick edges and you don't pick linemen, which he then did in this draft. Was the announcement of the 2 guys who had 5th-year options ready to be picked up, off their rookie contracts. And it was interesting that they picked up Jahmyr Gibbs because his option for his 5th year, because what they're in year 4 right now, this will be year 4, is $14.29 million, which that's very good money, but that's elite running back money. But they turned down all-pro linebackers Jack Campbell's option because his option would have been $21.9 million. And the reason it would have been that much is because when the NFL does their formalization of how the rookie contracts are done, his position gets lumped in with defensive ends. So you're paying an off-ball linebacker to be the same money as like an elite defensive end, which is absolutely bonkers. And the Lions said, we're doing this because of that, not because we don't want to keep Jack Campbell. We do want to make an extension. We just don't want to pay him like Aiden Hutchinson, which makes perfect sense.
Well,
but it's ridiculous. We're always talking about contract. When we talk about contracts, guys, like we did with the NBA, the financials and all the stuff that's part of a formula You know, like when Siddy was bringing up, well, all NBA adds so much, and all defensive team adds so much. We kind of seen this with the NFL too, with the rookie deals.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, specifically with the Lions.
Yeah.
The problem Brad Holmes has after having drafted so well is that you got to start paying these guys real money after their rookie contracts are up. Mm-hmm. And that's what's happened with a lot of the guys. I think it started with St. Brown, and then also with Sewell, and then later Hutchinson. Of course, Goff is going to make a crap ton of money.
Right.
Who am I forgetting now? He's going to have to pay Laporta,
and the other question, and they already paid Kirby Joseph.
Yep, and then Brian
and then
Branch.
they got to figure out without Branch. Yeah.
Exactly, and Gibbs is going to be done with his rookie contract soon enough.
Yeah.
He's got to juggle things the best he can, and because you have a lot of other players to pay if you want a team. So it's not a trivial thing to do that. And as far as the draft goes and like who he picked, I think what he said was in this case it happened to be coincidence that the guys they had up there were the guys they needed to fill holes. And
I believe him when he says that. I do believe that.
Oh, I do too. And, I still go with the fact that like I'm going to just shut my mouth and let him pick who he wants to pick. Like, these other draft scholars online are not going to be any better than him. So But
if I had been smarter when I was younger, I would have become a draft Nick. Because you can throw your opinion out there. You can post all these mock drafts as oftentimes as you want, and there's no accountability. And then you get to go on TV or on big time websites and say this is who I should have picked, and because they didn't pick who I thought, they're going to give them a C for the draft. And then everybody moves on, and then later on that evening, there's a 2027 mock draft. So what the hell? Oh my! What half? What's the original draft, Nick? You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, Kuiper?
For ESPN. Kuiper? Yeah, what half Kuiper done? He created this industry by himself.
Yeah.
And now we're inundated with this stuff.
And he was in his
constantly.
20s. He was in his 20s when this whole thing started. He was. You got to give him credit. Say what you want about Mel
He
Kiper.
saw an opening and took it, which is very. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, no question about it. What I thought was kind of. I don't know if you guys saw this or not. I thought it was kind of funny. And aside, there's nothing to do with the Lions. The Rams, as you know, drafted Ty Simpson, the quarterback.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And at the press conference when they were talking about this pick, Sean McVay looked like he would rather be anywhere but at that press conference. He was so uninterested and so unenthusiastic about this pick. And who's the GM there at LA? Who's their brain trust guy there? What's his name?
I don't remember.
Snead. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's it.
And he was going on and on about Simpson and everything, and everybody was like, McVay is not on board with this pick.
Coaches don't want projects. They don't.
And McVay said something like, "Well, this is still Matthew Stafford's," as he should say that. This is still Matthew Stafford's team. But you know what? Don't forget that when the Packers drafted Aaron Rodgers when Brett Favre was still the man there. Okay, and Rodgers basically sat on the sidelines for 2 years before he got a shot. I mean, Matthew Stafford's going to be 38
or something like that.
38, 39, yeah.
So, I mean, I get that and he's still playing at a high level. There's no question about it. But, you don't know when these guys are going to break down. You have no idea. Yeah. It was still an eye-opening pick because I think that nobody really had Simpson going to the Rams. But it just didn't look like that Snead and McVay were on the same page with us, but maybe it was just looks can be deceiving. I don't know.
Oh, that was you were right. He McVay looked like he would. This is not my doing.
Right.
Yeah.
This is not my doing. Yeah, that's one way to put it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But and that's the thing about drafts. He could be proven right for all we know.
Yeah.
I mean, who knew Drake May would take a team to the damn Super Bowl? Even though he got kind of exposed there,
No,
but
that's
yeah.
true. Well, yeah, he was
Yeah.
awful in the Super Bowl. But the
Yeah.
thing is that I thought that and you're right, Al. We're not draft picks. I get that. We don't. We're just a couple of guys talking about. But I do what I do like as a non-expert
Yeah.
is just when it comes to just filling needs. If we all kind of looked at the roster and said, what would we like to see him do? And he did. Holmes kind of did what we would have liked for him to do.
Yeah.
Now whether these guys will pan out, we don't know, of course. But it looks like on the surface he addressed what needed to be addressed. He drafted a bunch of edge guys, like at least three, if not four guys, edge guys, as the draft went on. And I think he may have even signed an undrafted free agent who was also an edge guy. So they're trying to find, a Robin to Aiden Hutchinson's Batman as far as the pass rush goes. You can't say, of course, Derek Moore could be the guy anyway. That could be case closed. But beyond Moore, even, there's he drafted a lot. He's bringing a lot of guys into camp. That I think that roster on the defensive line is going to be kind of not wide open because there's certainly some spots that are filled. But I think some of these young kids are going to get a real serious look in mini camps and in training camp.
Yeah.
I could see that. I mean, in the past he's like signed guys to like 1 or 2 year deals, like free agents, and it's just been it didn't work. These guys were getting injured so often that it was just not
right.
He can't keep signing. He couldn't sign them fast enough. I think.
Yeah.
Right.
To replace which one is the guy that got hurt like every 2 games he played? Like, is it Davenport?
Oh yeah, I think it was. Was it Davenport?
I think so. Like he's getting hurt instantly.
Yeah. As soon as he steps on the field, he gets hurt. Yeah.
And then what is it? Pascal is the other one. There's there's one guy after another. So they never had any stability on the other side of it, Hutchinson.
And it is interesting when you're bringing up the injury stuff that it looks like the Lions are actually looked at, have realized that 2 years in a row, 1 year might be bad luck, but 2 years in a row of the same issues, that's more of a trend. And they've made some changes, like they're not having a true rookie mini camp where they're going to have them doing drills and shit. They said they would be doing something different. They're not going to have the combined practices this year with an opposing team. Looks like they're going to start ramping the physicality down a little bit, and that kind of makes sense considering the issues this team has had over the past few years. And they had to do something because injuries have been a major issue with this team. And one of the things that they've always said, they have hard practices, and and even during the season, they have really tough practices. And I just go back to, Greg and I remember Wayne Fonts, and that was one of the things he was known for, is that he had light practices during the season, and his teams almost always were fresher for the last 6 weeks or so and would make these mad runs because they were healthier and fresher than a lot of their teams who would actually make the playoffs because of it. So maybe the Lions are starting to learn some lessons. The brain trust is learning some lessons over the past couple seasons.
Yeah, I mean, say what you will about Wayne, but I think after Thanksgiving, he didn't put the players in pads for the entire month of December. And I did the math one time. I looked up all the December, I combined them together. I may even shared this with you guys one time.
Yeah.
And their combined record in December under Wayne, even in the years where they didn't make the playoffs, was like 667 ball.
Yeah.
From Thanksgiving on. Now, the flip side of that was, in many of those instances, they got up to such bad starts that even the late runs you're talking about weren't enough to make the playoffs. And then once they got to the playoffs, they would always fizzle out. But he was known for that. I remember talking to Ron Rice one time after Ron was finished playing, and Ron went to Eastern. And I said, was it true that Wayne was a player's coach? He said, oh my God, I loved Wayne. He said he only played for 1 year. Rice did. But he said, I loved playing for Wayne Fonts. He was a jovial guy. He cared about the players. Now, there are a lot of players that didn't like Wayne because they thought he too much preference to the stars. But Ron said, I loved playing I wish I could have played for more. He just had this, and Barry Sanders to this day says I will not tolerate any Wayne Fontes hate. He was the best coach I've ever had, college, high school, or pro, and he had a kind of a father-son relationship with Wayne. And Barry Sanders, of course, did not want Wayne Fontes fired, as you know. Yeah. And that was one of the things that led to the whole kerfuffle. But, Barry said, say what you will, but he's my guy. And if you're one of your best players of franchise history says he's my favorite coach, I say what you will about Wayne Fontes, but that's strong words. Those are strong words.
Yeah, he's the definition of a vibes coach for the most part, but that's why he really needed strong coordinators, and that was, I think that may have been some part of his failing, that he had to lean so hard on his coordinators that we all know how many coordinators he ended up going through. He fired a lot of coordinators. But I hate using hindsight, but in hindsight, I think Wayne is less to blame for those teams than the upper management and the rosters he was given.
Yeah,
he never could get a quarterback ever.
Yeah, that was the problem. Yeah, never could. You're right. Right. Yeah.
All right. I guess one more thing before we. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nick, please.
I was just going to throw in one slight thing, going back to the whole injury thing with the Lions in the last couple of years. Remember too that now they're playing 17-game seasons.
Right.
So that's one other serious games versus.
Yes. And they want to go 18. Yes.
You're going to get more injuries. I think you're probably at the limit of, games that count in an NFL season because it's just too violent of a sport. So, I don't know what they're going to do. Like keep the roster the same, or they're going to add in roster spots because you're going to go.
That would cost the owners money.
Not like they don't have it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that honestly that makes them maybe increase the rosters and don't have any scratches on game days. That's the other one I could never. Why did the NFL teams need to have scratches on game days? It's ridiculous.
Right.
Right. Why do you have to have an emergency quarterback? Just have all the quarterbacks eligible and have your full 56-man roster available to you.
Right.
Right. All right, one more quick topic before we call it an evening, and I know we discussed this in our little group chat when this news broke, but it's all but official, guys. The NCAA basketball tournament, both for men and women, will expand from 68 teams to 76 teams. The first four goes from 8 teams and 4 games to 24 teams playing 12 games, and obviously the impetus for this change came from the Power 4 conferences because most of these openings, these fresh openings, are going to go to teams from the Big Ten, the SEC, the two conferences that really pushed for it, the ACC and the Big 12. It's the mid-majors are not going to get these spots. And, as much as I hate Colin Cowherd, I really don't care for him, he made a really good line about this. He goes, expanding the ACC doesn't make the tournament bigger; it makes it feel smaller, because it's going to become a four conference tournament at this rate, and that's I'm sure that's what they would prefer.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. It starts to get exhausting when they start expanding all of these, any kind of playoffs to begin with.
Yeah,
and it's. But, like the Big Ten or the Big whatever, how many number there are now, they're just going to have more teams in that tournament. And so it just benefits them, basically. And then same with the other big conferences. Then the other question is, like, what happens to the NIT as though anybody cares necessarily? But it still exists.
Yeah.
So, and they're going to turn that into a mid-major tournament.
I'm sure that's what the Power 4 conferences would love to happen. You're right.
So
just make it. Just put the 6 or 7 mid-major conferences, shovel them off into the NIT or the Crown, whatever the hell those other tournaments are called.
Although I love it when Oakland U goes in and knocks off a bunch of arrogant asshole teams, and like what did they knock off like Kentucky a couple of years ago?
I love that when they beat Calipari. Yeah, that was great.
Oh man, that's what makes it fun though.
Sure.
It doesn't make
Yeah.
it fun to see some bottom feeder in the Big Ten
Right.
Yes,
show up. In
the mid majors make that tournament. They really do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's true.
I don't know. It's getting tiresome.
Yeah.
If Michigan's in it, I'll pay attention. If Iowa State's in it, I'll pay attention. After that, like, it's a little too much for me.
Yeah, because speaking of mid majors, I just found this interesting. I guess it came out today that Detroit Mercy, which came they were a win away from making it to the big tournament, are ineligible for the tournament for postseason play next year because of grades. It's like, holy crap! They still care about that apparently, at least at some levels.
How bad is it?
Yeah.
It's usually one player, but like the whole team is like.
Because it was announced that they are ineligible for postseason play. I was like, what?
Crap.
That really caught me off guard, considering on these big major college teams, these kids don't even go to campus anymore. It's almost all they spend all their time in the team facilities and take their classes online for the most part. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is what it is at this point. I don't blame the kids themselves for wanting to do it that way because playing football and basketball is essentially a full-time job for them. But it does take away the experience that you have of going to college and the exposure you get to different things. And these guys are just exposed to football 24/7, and it's kind of a shame. But it's not going to change. That's the thing. Too much money at stake.
Yep, for sure.
I mean,
all right. Okay, I guess with that we don't need to touch on the Wings, and we don't really need to touch on anything else. I think so.
The Wings did have that GM postseason press conference since the last time we were together, but there wasn't a lot of. We could talk about it next time. There wasn't a lot of earth-shattering stuff. We can talk about it next time. But Stevie did. Yeah,
the only thing that's going on with them now is it looks like they're going to get a women's professional hockey team, an expansion team. That's likely going to get announced, I think, Wednesday, the way it's looking. So, all right. I guess with that, it means it's time for our Jerk of the Week. So, Nick, you get the lead off.
All right. It's actually kind of tough to find one this time. Like, nothing really stood out. But there's one I do remember. It was making news like a couple weeks ago. It was the owner of the Portland Trail Blazers, the new owner. Yeah. There was like articles about like how cheap he was being. So they had this past season, Chauncey Billups got into all that hot water over the gambling stuff. And so they had an interim coach in there who, by all accounts, did fairly well and got him into the playoffs, which hasn't happened in a while for the Trailblazers, and but they're not going to re-sign him because the owner wants to pay below market for a coach. Yeah, and it's not like this guy's like a household name. He's not hiring Phil Jackson. He's not hiring some guy with like a ring or two. This guy was an interim coach, and he just did well. And I don't know what those guys make, like $2-3 million, something in that ballpark. And this guy wants to sign somebody for like $1 million or less, which to me, he's going to have to go to high school, like pull out a high school coach and put him in there. And then, but there's like other things like not having the two-way players travel with the team as though a plane ticket is too much money. And so there's all this, and it's part of, from what I'm reading, this whole philosophy of like earn your right to get paid well by being successful kind of thing. And I've heard this shit in like R&D in companies too. And it's like, let's starve everybody and see if you can be successful. And then if you can, then we'll pay you. I don't know. I think there's some kind of business school thing that's come up in the last several years, which I just kind of detest that philosophy. And but apparently he also owns the Carolina Hurricane, and he did that with them. And one writer to me was an apologist said, hey, this might be, it's helped the Hurricanes be a better team kind of in the long run, like maybe, I suppose. But it still kind of looks bad when you're you're a billionaire and you're penny pinching to this extent.
Yeah.
So yeah, my jerk of the week is Thomas Dundon. I think this is how his name is pronounced. So.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that he made his billions in the subprime auto loan business, essentially preying on the poor. So yeah, this guy is a piece of work, to say the very least.
Yeah, that's a good one actually.
Right. A good one, Nick. All right, Greg, you're up.
Well, this is a little bit of a deep cut because I'm not sure if you guys. This made a lot of news. It made a little bit of news briefly. I shouldn't say news. That's kind of a strong word, but it got a little bit of play. There was this baseball fan in Cleveland. Excuse me. It turns out his name was Max Quinn. And at a Cleveland Guardians game, he did the egregious thing of swiping a baseball that had gone into the stands. I think it was a home run ball, away from a little girl. And it was pretty blatant that he basically took it out of her hands. Okay. And so he takes this ball now, and he's sitting in the stands, and he's getting berated, as you can imagine. But it was several innings before he finally gave this little girl, she was 11, this ball back. Now, it sounds like, then with the media was portraying this as a, quote, heartwarming story, okay? First of all, it was anything but. This guy, he's a small business owner, his name's Max Quinn. And I'm going to read this to you. You're going to think that it was a heartwarming story because he came out, he did an interview. I got to give him credit. He did an interview and explained his actions, said he was sorry and everything. But my problem with Max Quinn is two things. Now, they always say that character is judged by what you do when no one is looking, right?
Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons that he was not complaining, but that he was taken aback, he said, was from all the hate and the vitriol that he got on social media. Like he just woke up yesterday, And so he said, well, I had to close my accounts, all my social media accounts. The thing is that he was caught on camera, of course. It was caught on camera, this whole baseball incident thing. My contention is, and this could just be me being a cynical person, is that the only reason this guy gave this girl that ball back was because he was caught. He was caught. His initial reaction to this ball was to take it from her. And it took several innings for him, I guess his conscience got the best of him, or what, to finally, and now to the girl's mother's credit, she said to back off this guy. Enough is enough. He did the right thing ultimately. Back off. It just don't ruin his life over this. And she's right. His life should not be ruined over this. But my concern about this guy is, if he wanted to do the right thing, he would have done the right thing immediately. Not waited until the pressure built up, and then he realized he was on camera, and so now now it's being portrayed by the media, who's another jerk of the week, as this heartwarming story. It wasn't not a heartwarming story. Yeah. A heartwarming story would have been if he would have taken the ball and immediately given it to the girl. You don't get to be a heartwarming story if 3 or 4 innings later you do it because your social media you're being drilled on social media in real time. So I just think that this guy. If he had his druthers and if he was not caught on camera, he would not have given that ball back to that girl. I believe that with every fiber of my being. He did do the right thing, but under immense pressure and almost like he almost couldn't not do the right thing, if you know what I mean.
No, that's a good call. I am familiar with it. I did hear about. I didn't see the video, but I did read about it. Yeah, and that really comes down to the only way you're a good person is when the attention is focused on you. You're not a good person,
right?
So yeah, you nailed it, bingo. That's a good jerk of the week. My jerk of the week. I wasn't sure where I was going to go. I was sad about going to the Saudis and live golf and how that seems to be imploding.
Right.
I thought about maybe the argument between the Big Ten and the ACC are having over the TV rights for the Madison Square Garden game between Duke and Michigan next year, because Amazon Prime just bought the rights to it, and the Big Ten and the ACC are now fighting over who actually owns that game. The Big Ten thinks they do. The ACC, well, whatever. But I'm going to go. We have to go back to gambling and what's happening at Texas Tech with Brendan Sorsby, who was the quarterback at Cincinnati. He was their big get in the portal, paid millions to transfer to Texas Tech. And it turns out he's being investigated for gambling. He has left the school, and it's come out that when he was a redshirt freshman at Indiana, he was making bets on the Hoosiers. Not a good look.
Right.
Betting, period, is not a good look. But when you're betting on your own team that you're playing for, that's hugely compromising. Apparently, he's under investigation from the NBA. He has left school. He has gone into rehab for gambling. But the other interesting story out of this, and I think this probably would be the two-jerk, because we've talked about the gambling thing in the past. When CBS Sports reported on this story, and this is what they had in the article. Texas Tech was an overwhelming favorite to repeat as the Big 12 champions after acquiring Sorsby this offseason, but now have moved to even money at plus 100 via FanDuel Sportsbook after Monday's news. The Red Raiders' projected win total has also decreased, going from 11.5 at opening to now 10.5 victories. And Sorsby is no longer on FanDuel's Heisman list. The kid is going to rehab for betting, and the article that CBS Sports posted has how it affected the odds on the team.
How ironic.
How ironic could it be? CBS Sports got called out on it, and they did remove that part of it, and they did add an update saying that we had some insensitive information posted with this article. It has been updated. But how clueless and tied into the betting system do you have to be to when you have a story about this, about a kid betting on his own teams and going into rehab,
right? And
you post the odds about how it hurt his team.
Oh,
I'm like, what the hell? So my jerk of the week is CBS Sports. So being so goddamn clueless.
Yep, irony is dead.
Yeah.
Is it Dominic Raiola's kid taking over as quarterback of that team, like transferring yet again?
I don't know, but wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, I can't even keep track of the transfers anymore.
Well, I keep hearing about him. He's like transferred for like the second or third time. Like he's like he changes teams like Larry Brown used to change.
Yeah, yeah. I know that is something else that has come up that NCAA is trying to change eligibility rules, so we'll stop seeing these 6th and 7th year seniors. But saying to only have a certain amount of time after they turn a certain age to get their, I think, 5 years of eligibility in. And the problem is, it's going to go to court and it's going to get overturned because until the NCAA and the schools finally come up with a CBA, which means they have to admit these kids are employees, which they have been for decades.
Right.
And apparently that's the one hill that is too high for these schools. They could nip a lot of these issues in the bud if they had a collective bargaining agreement. They could have all the stuff we've been talking about between the size of the tournament and gambling and eligibility rules and transfer rules. It could all be negotiated into a CBA and it would all be settled, but they won't do it. So I'll throw the NCAA into my jerk of the week as well.
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
On principle.
What are the odds?
Exactly. Yes.
What are the odds?
All right. I think it's time to get out of here. So, as always, Nick, I'll let you open with let everybody know where they can find you online. Anything else you'd like to tell everybody?
Sure. So if you want to go back and forth on sports, I'm on Twitter at Nick Milanovich. And if you want to look at the other stuff I do that's unrelated to sports, I'm on Instagram at Cat Up a Tree.
Yep. And, of course, I need to go to Greg, who has his fingers in numerous online pies, and he can tell us what may be going on with him. Don't forget about his Substack, and also maybe get out the thank yous and the social media and all that fun stuff.
Sure. Obviously, first things first, and that's to thank Siddy Hall for being with us and
of course
giving us his perspective. I always enjoy listening to him talk about the NBA, and we'll do it again in a couple of weeks when we talk about this upcoming series. So look forward to that on May 18th. Follow me on X at Greg Eno, and my Substack is gregeno.substack.com. If you subscribe for free, I will be in your inbox every morning, so please do that. I want to thank my lovely wife Sharon for putting up with this nonsense every 2 weeks, and thank you, gentlemen, for making Monday night so gosh darn fun.
Indeed. And again, I will also throw a shout out to Siddy. He's always a lot of fun to talk to. And we will likely be talking to him in a couple weeks when we have our next show.
Yep.
And also thank you to you guys for letting me talk sports like I'm hanging out at the bar for a couple hours. It's always a lot of fun. And as always, we appreciate our listeners. We would love it if you would like, share, and subscribe to the show. We are available pretty much anywhere podcasts are found. So if you go to aggregators like Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music, these are Radio Public, Ghana, pretty much anywhere podcasts are found, just do a search for the Knee Jerks of Eno, Nick, and Big Al, some combination thereof, and then please subscribe to the show. We also live stream video of every episode to both YouTube and Twitch. Again, just do a search for the Knee Jerks. Please subscribe. And our homepage is thekneejerks.net, where you can find the links to everything we talk about when it comes to social media and links to our friends and anything we might be promoting at the time or for guests. And also you can download the MP3 straight from there if you don't want to deal with an aggregator. So I think that about covers it, guys. So we'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll obviously be talking playoff basketball one way or another, either as a preview or a post-mortem. Hell, it might even be Game 7 at that point. So because it might be over, because I know they're playing every other day, I think, now at this point for the most part. But we have that. And, well, who knows who will be injured on the Tigers at that point. so we'll see. Anyway, we got to get going. So we'll see you in 2 weeks from tonight. So until that time, this is Al Beaton saying good evening, good luck, and aloha, along with Nick Milanovich.
Good night, guys.
And, of course, Greg Eno.
Ciao, Italy. We'll see you in 2 weeks.